Folks, we're back. This is Steve Sampson and Stephanie Phillips with another episode of Veterans in Politics, our second show for tonight. Today we have Cody Whipple, candidate for Nevada's Congressional District number 4. Matter of fact, that's my congressional district, so it's going to be very, very exciting to hear what Mr. Whipple has to say. Ms. Phillips?
Thanks for joining us, everybody, and thank you to our sponsors. We have Semperfi Heating and Cooling. It's getting hot out there. Give them a call. Their website is callsemperfi.com. Callsemperfi.com. We also have Mayor Michelle Romero. She is running for re-election. Her website is votemichelleromero.com. Votemichelleromero.com. Jump on her website. And we also have Angelo Carvalho. He is running for Board of Regents, District 3. His website is carvalhofornevada.com. carvalhofornevada.com, and that's the number 4. If you are a candidate, have a business or a nonprofit, and you want to advertise with us, get in touch with us. We will give you the details. We've got a few spots left. And also, don't forget to grab your copy of Steve's book, How to Navigate Nevada's Family Court System. You can get a copy on Amazon. It is $14.99. And if you are a litigant in family court and you don't have an attorney and you can't afford one, this is a self-help book. It will help you navigate that system. Also, we are planning our Valentine's Ball. It is February 7th of 2026, and we're going to have extra early bird tickets on sale July 1st. Look out for those because there's only going to be a limited quantity of those early bird tickets, and you're going to save a bunch of money, so you're going to want to grab your tickets early. Also, we have a merch store. It's VIPImerch.com, VIPImerch.com. And you check out what we have on there. We've got a bunch of fun stuff. What did I miss? I think that's it. My rant. I'm going to make this very short because we started late. I apologize. But in New York, the mayor's race, I think you guys probably saw this. The guy who beat the former governor, Andrew Cuomo. So the guy who beat him is Zoran Memdani, I believe. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Memdani. This gentleman, New York, you guys do it to yourselves. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. This guy's platform includes free public buses, universal childcare, freezing rent and subsidized units, a city-run grocery store. Imagine a government-run grocery store. Defund the police are some of his ideas and positions. Abolish prison system. Prohibit state-operated hospitals from suing for medical debt. Universal health care. Ban all guns. God forbid you have a gun. And exercise your Second Amendment rights. Decriminalize sex work. Safe injection sites. I don't even know what the heck that is. End cash bail. Decriminalize drug possession. End cooperation with ICE. But what was funny is the government-run grocery stores. Can you imagine, you know how the government runs the DMV, the post office, or the IRS? You'll be sitting there waiting for months for your groceries, and you probably never get them because they won't stock the shelves. Much like some people don't get their refunds. You never get your mail, and the DMV, you have to make an appointment, 2 months in advance? So anyway, good luck, New York. Hope the guy doesn't win the general. So Eric Adams seems the better choice. But anyway, I couldn't even believe my ears on that one.
Wow.
Yeah, there you go.
Mr. Whipple.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Could you give us a bio, please?
Sure. Cody Whipple. I'm a lifelong Nevadan. Businessman, cattle rancher, coach.
What kind of coach?
Father. Coached fast pitch softball. I coached football. Okay. I've been going hard since the first 25 years. I was born and raised a cattle rancher. The last 25 years, I've been in Las Vegas, running my small business, raising my family.
What type of business is that?
Wireless communications. Okay. I actually get to work with Marine Corps comm techs. Oh. So I've hired
Hoorah.
Yeah, they're great qualified candidates for communications, and done a lot of work here in Las Vegas. So just been a great place to have a business, raise a family, and really just, the Las Vegas be the center of the world to rural Nevada and to other parts of the country. So it's just been a great place to really grow from.
Have you served in the military?
I haven't, but we grew up. It was like 35 miles in front of Area 51, so we saw it all. We saw the triangles. We saw the helicopters that didn't make any noise. The B-1 bombers would come off one valley, down into, they'd come over the mountain range, come into the valley, and go up the other one. So we've seen it all. It was my brothers and I. We all wanted to be pilots, but football took us to college. It's funny how things come full circle, because my daughter, she actually became a pilot through Faith Lutheran's flight academy. So, we've been there our whole lives. I mean, the things that we saw sometimes, everybody goes out to Rachel because they call it the extraterrestrial highway. And, but really what it is just a lot of fancy planes and a lot of flares. So people get to enjoy those big black skies with all the aircraft that fly during red flag, green flag, all those different events.
So what are the boundary lines, and what are you going to do different than the other candidates that try to unseat Stephen Horsford and they just can't? What do you plan on doing different, and what are the boundary lines for Congressional District 4?
So great question. It's a big district, right? It goes northern Clark County all the way up to parts of Lyon County, towns like Tonopah, Hawthorne, Pahrump, Mesquite, Moapa, Logandale, and then, of course, where I'm from, Alamo, Hyco, Panaca-Pioche, Caliente. There's some small towns out there. I mean, the county of Nye it's like a hammer. It goes all the way up in the middle part of the state. White Pines on one side, Eureka. So
a lot of rural.
Lots of rural. And that's what's so funny, is that we have this big district, but it has no representation at all. Stephen Horsford is absent. Even the commissioners, the different leaders in our rural parts of our district, they try to go to DC and have meetings to talk about this or that. And, he never has any time for them. So obviously that's a big part of why I'm running, right? That's my home district, northern, Clark County, Las Vegas for 25 years before that. Nobody knows it better. The rules, the urban, why I raised my family here. I've actually worked the soil. I've raised cattle, grown beef, So,
thank you for that.
yeah,
Wonderful.
We all love beef, right? It's the best protein there ever. So, Horsford, we need a conservative. We need another conservative in Nevada that can help Amadei and the governor. The governor is battling, and we've got some good senators. We've got some good assemblymen and women, but we really do need to be representative with a true conservative. And it's a funny story. I'll tell it real quick, but I refer to myself as a Nevadan, and I got to I played 8-man football north of here in Alamo, which I got to go to Virginia Tech. I played in the Gator Sugar Orange Bowls. I played a year of arena football. All great things. Learned a lot. Had great coaches, but the thing that really helped me the most was, when I was a senior, I went to Connecticut to play in a prep school, because you play 8-man football, how are you going to get recruited to play 11-man as a quarterback? It was a different game. So I went out to Connecticut, and the first thing I realized was, first of all, where I grew up, we had no racism. When you don't grow up around racism, you don't know what it is. But the minute I stepped into Connecticut, and all the guys from Massachusetts, Boston, right? Boston, Beantown. And then you got South Jersey. And you've got all the different, demographics. And they say, I'm South Jersey, or I'm from Lynn, I'm from Cherry Hill. And they're like, where are you from, Whipple? I'm like, well, I'm a Nevadan. We're like, what's a Nevadan? And I'm like, well, you know what? If you've ever spent a day traveling to an Indian reservation called Oahe on a Bluebird bus to play a football game, that's a Nevadan. If you've been to the Elko County horse races and went and had Basque food for dinner, that's a Nevadan. And so explaining that to people, what a Nevadan was, that's what I would tell them. I'm a Nevadan. And so that really, people up in the valley joke about it, but they say it's the salt, the alkali that's in your soil. And being a Nevadan is critical to me. And I believe that connection with the district is really going to be able to we're going to be able to run a campaign where I think that's one of the things that Stephen Hortsford has on his side, is that he's from Clark High School. He's from Las Vegas. But you know what? And we've had a lot of these candidates come in from other states, and they're not true Nevadans.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
They're not true Nevadans.
All the time.
And, they say a lot of things. They say they love the state. They say they want to be good business. They want to see pro-business. They want to do this. They're MAGA, right? You know what? We're Nevadans. When you've driven on Rainbow Boulevard when it was a dirt road, or you drove out through the desert to get the meadows, I'm a Nevadan.
Or everything stops at N.
Mm-hmm. Way before
we
that.
had to take Rancho. We had to take Rancho out to Indian Springs.
So you've been to Bob Taylor's ranch house, have you?
Many times. So really, we're going to give the state of Nevada and District 4 a conservative. We're going to give a conservative in Cody Whipple. They're going to have a conservative that knows the state well, that wants to see this beautiful city of Las Vegas and this beautiful state of Nevada continue to thrive. And that's what I'm going to bring to CD4 in 2026.
Well, and that is because that covers so much of the rurals. A lot of people don't understand the needs of the rurals are so different than what they are here. You understand that because that's where you're from. And a lot of these candidates get in and they don't get that. But it's like two separate worlds.
I tagged you on a post tonight. There was another horrible accident on US 93. Mm-hmm. I almost lost my best friend, Mark. He hit a semi-truck. Thank God he is tough.
That's just a 2-lane.
It's a 2-lane road.
When are they going to widen that thing?
I know
people
that
people like Stephen Hortsford, they don't care. They want to impress the
masses.
Well, the wildlife preservation folks, and instead of building a 2-lane highway, all they do is they put tortoise tunnels underneath the single lane. And I'm all for wildlife. We do lots of wildlife projects at our cattle ranch. I've done a lot for the willow flycatcher. I've done a lot for the Pranagat round-tailed chub. I work with Fish and Wildlife. I work with Nevada Department of Wildlife on a daily basis. I'm all for preserving our beautiful Nevada, but let's do it together. Let's do it in a way that makes our state better, right? We've got to get infrastructure up to Lincoln County. We got to continue to improve the infrastructure into Nye County, Esmeralda County. They are great places to live and raise your children. And now with this urban broadband development, we've got broadband heading up but we need more power. We need obviously more utilities. And more than anything, we need highways. US 93 is the number one choice to get to Idaho now. Do you know what the fastest growing state in the country is? Idaho.
Oh, wow.
Do you know where everybody travels from Idaho to Las Vegas? They're going right down 93. I-15, there's an accident on I-15. They shut it all down and send it through 93. You can't do anything up 93 when they shut down I-15 and now all the traffic has to go. So I understand the problems. I understand the rural. I understand the urban. School choice led me to Connecticut. Las Vegas brought me and my family, my wife back for business, for the life that we've loved and the life that we've lived.
So can you, while you're making that list for the rurals, can you also add in there rural hospitals, cell phone towers, the highway signs, the highway signs that are so terrible you can't read them. Yeah.
I've done my part
incredible.
For public safety. I've done my part for public safety. I've got a wireless network that covers Southern Nevada, Southern Utah, Northern Arizona, and California. I've got some really big opportunities with this railroad that's going between the two with construction and the management. However, I built a wireless network for all these fire and police out into the rurals. They can, instead of having to only communicate through dispatch, now they're able to communicate from radio to radio, from valley to valley. In the past, you communicate from one high base station and you hit all parts of the state from one base station. That doesn't mean that you can communicate from one valley to valley, one valley to the next. However, cellular, broadband, that's a difficult pull. I deal with commissioners and they're like, Cody, why can't we get cellular up 318? And I'm like, it's infrastructure. We need fiber on the road. We need power on the road. And then as far as working with the FCC, we can do all the communications work, but it does take some infrastructure to make those things work. As far as the signage, that's the state of Nevada. So we need to make sure that the state of Nevada is making sure that they've got the rural counties with quality signage. I mean, when you see the sign, next gas is 100 miles away, don't count on that.
Yeah.
Don't count. That was 20, 30 years ago. That 100 miles is probably 200. Like, you got to go from Hyco to Ely to get gas because those signs are very deceiving sometimes. You think you've got help, but you don't. Mm-hmm. And so, with the infrastructure that we have right now, the people that get in accidents on 93, they don't even bother bringing them into Vegas. They just call the helicopter for Mesquite and send them to the Mesquite because it's such a difficult issue getting from the rurals into the city. We need better roads. We need
to widen those roads.
Widen them. Put a passing lane. Put a couple of rest stops, for heck's sake, right? There's rest stops everywhere. Why don't we have a rest stop?
Service. There's no emergency phone service.
No emergency phones.
There's no web.
It's so desolate up there. When I was traveling from Elko, back
I can
home,
tell you one person.
My goodness, it is so pitch black, dark out there, and all the animals are all over the place. I almost hit. I don't even know how many deer and elk and I mean, they were everywhere.
There's one guy that's not going to do anything about it. And he's the one that's representing the district, and that's Stephen Hortsford.
I don't think he knows anything about the rules.
He doesn't know.
Nor does he care.
Well, but is that his, I mean, he's sitting there in North Las Vegas, and he gets his votes. John Lee, we all thought John Lee was going to do very well. John Lee's a great candidate. He's endorsed me this in the 2020 or the primary. Look what he's done with North Las Vegas. I mean, North Las Vegas is a mecca now. I mean, you're talking about all those goods and services from the Long Beach Pier coming directly to North Las Vegas now because it's a great place to move it around the West Coast. And I mean, John Lee did a fantastic job, but I'm very optimistic. I believe the Democrats are having a hard time fundraising. The Democratic Party is in the tank. We've got a candidate that's a true conservative that knows the district very well, knows the firemen, knows the policemen, knows the contractors, knows the ready mix companies, knows the sports community, football, softball. We have this, they talk about grassroots effort. I've been living it for 25 years. I've worked in each one of those communities to the point to where, Coach Cody or, Cody Whipple, all I need to do is get to that point to where I can't wait for next June. I'm just excited to get to say, you know what, Hortsford, get ready. You got somebody ready to fight. Mm-hmm. And I, that's with John Lee, a big fan of his, but I think that, I'm not, there was some age there that, trust me, I know at 50, I'm not what I was at 30. And I think, you know what? I'm ready to take Hortsford head on.
Mm-hmm. The rurals also need clinics. There's no clinics. Yeah. There's no emergency hospitals. Mm-hmm. There's none of that stuff. I mean, as a sitting congressman, what could you do about that?
Well, first of all, there are hospitals. They're just very small, and There's a hospital in Caliente. There's a hospital in Tonopah. There's a hospital in Pahrump. But the clinics, for those folks that don't want to travel 60, 100 miles.
They have to travel well over an hour just
So,
to get somewhere.
How about the veterans?
Well, not to throw somebody's name out, but Dr. John and I talk about AI and using Zoom a lot about bringing healthcare to the rural areas. I mean, if you can get online and get some help and call in an order of penicillin or amoxicillin or whatever, that would be tremendous. So there's other ways to do it. Coming to Vegas, my mother, it scares me to death. My mom's 86 years old, and those doctors want to see her every few weeks. And my wife and I tell her, Mom, you're 86. What else can you possibly be doing at these doctor's appointments? Stay up there. Let's teaching her to use a laptop's been a
challenge.
I'm not kidding you. The other day I walked in, because I go back and forth a lot, and I have an F-350 in case I get in an accident. That F-350 is going to take the punch. It'll take the hit. I walked in the house at the ranch the other day, and my mother was on the phone, and I said, "Who are you talking to?" She said, "Well, they're helping me with my laptop." I said, "Mom, how do they know you have a laptop?" Because somebody had given her one. I said, "Get off the phone." They would literally, and that's the other thing, these people call these elderly and will start, and she was about to give a credit card. I said, "Mother,
oh my gosh,
hang up the phone. How do they know you have a laptop?" So dealing with my mom, even with simple things like that, and trying to connect her. She's using an iPhone. I think she's watching our program tonight.
Yeah,
you showed her,
she's on. I got her on our Facebook page.
You showed her how to get on Veterans and Politics.
She is.
So.
Hi, Mom.
Mr. Whipple, they say 87% of Nevada belongs to the federal government.
Yep.
As a congressman, what could you do to make that number lower?
There's so many issues there. I did get to take a trip out to Washington, D.C. I got to meet with National Cattlemen's, rice, soybeans, meat institute. I got to meet with Governor Barber, who used to be in charge of the Republican Party for a while. So I had some meetings, and I really wanted to figure out this federal land issue. First of all, 98% of Lincoln County is owned by the government. So it is the whole county. Nye County is a lot like that. Yes, there's been some land sales. There's been some land set-asides in Lincoln County, but they haven't released any. So if you don't release it, it's not like you're getting anything. The one business, there was an Alamo plot of land that was sold, and it sat there forever. And they decided, you know what? We're going to sell it. And my cousin Mike, who's a great businessman, bought it and put in an industrial warehousing there. And now he's employed 15 to 20 people. Do you know how huge that is? That we got a little bit of land and we were able to get a commercial business, and now we have 15 to 20 jobs in a small community like that. That's life-changing for the community.
Yeah.
We need more of those stories in Pahrump, in Tonopah, in Pioche. That's what the district needs to see. So how do we get it? Well, there's a problem. First of all, Clark County has to decide what they want to do. The commissioners, the city council, need to figure out, what are we going to do? What land do we want to take? That's the first hurdle. They got to make sure they know what they want, because really, as a congressman, all I can do is support them. And what I mean support them means I'm going to have to work with the cattlemen. I'm going to have to work with the hunters. And these people that do not want to see federal land sold or auctioned, it's going to take an effort to make sure that they understand why. We're not selling national parks. We're not selling state parks. We're not selling these beautiful plots of land. I think Senator Lee has it right now that's 1 to 5 miles from the current available private property. So really in these rural counties, the property looks like jagged teeth, so,
right. Yeah.
So why not just square it off, make some extra land? And so I think that's the easy stuff, is that we can kind of let Congress know, let the senators work it out. Hey, we're just trying to get the land around our cities. I think one of the big things right now, Steve, is, this is Veterans in Politics. So I did some research. The fact of the matter is that you know that homelessness for vets around the nation is going down, but in Clark County, it's going up.
They're all coming here.
Well, you know that it takes about a year. We have the best builders in the country in Las Vegas. It takes only a year to build a Hampton Inn. Why can't we take a little federal land and make sure that our vets have a place to live? You know what I mean? What's taking so long? Why isn't Hordsford fighting for that? You know, let's get to work. They deserve better. So that's what I want to see with federal land. I want to see the layups. If somebody's going to give us a layup, let's make sure to score it. So, you know, that's really what we need to focus on, is using these resources to keep our veterans, you know, with housing. You know, let's start with that. Then we can help with mental health, and we can supply these other resources that they need. You know, I honestly, if you know young veterans, tell them to take IT. Every one of them. The military does an amazing job with IT. They all need to be IT trained. There's so many IT jobs across this country. Everything is going online, and every bit of it goes through a server, goes through the internet, and those jobs are so plentiful. And so I tell all young people that they need to look at, you know, get a degree, but get a trade, learn to understand how you connect everybody up. What this gentleman's doing right here. You're on Facebook Live. You're able to do it as a small business, affordable. You know, that's the kind of business that we need to focus on down here in Southern Nevada. Because that, you know, there's a lot that can be done. So,
speaking of land, Bill Gates, I saw this thing the other day. Bill Gates owns the most farmland in our country. China is buying up our farmland. Kristi Noem up in South Dakota had put a stop to that. To me, it's a national security threat. I don't know why our government has even allowed these people, Bill Gates and China, to buy our farmland. Where do you stand on that?
I mean, it's pretty simple. They shouldn't be owning any of of America. You know, I've been told that they have big buildings in most cities that, you know, they're just flushing money.
Should you be a citizen before you could own our land?
Well, you know,
like in most countries.
You know, if I want to go buy a beach house in Cancun, I don't want people to take that right away from me. But farmland, you got to understand those resources. Once you buy them, that's a life. You know, you control them. We don't want somebody from China controlling our water, our land. What if they put all of those soybeans or wheat or whatever and just ship it to China? You know,
Should the federal government step in?
Absolutely. I think state by state, we need to take a look at what's happening. I mean, they're buying property outside of military bases. Mm-hmm. What in the world's that? I mean, that should never occur. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I think our governors need to take a more proactive approach and say, you know what, we want them to sell this back to private business. Maybe that's something where we can find some property to put in some housing for homeless veterans. Whatever the situation, we just don't want China owning it in our country, you know, so.
So let's jump over to Iran.
Iran, okay.
And what Trump just did the other day. Tell us first how you feel about that, because there were a lot of people that didn't agree with it. Some people thought that he declared war. Some people thought he didn't have the power to do it. And then, you know, brokered the peace deal. So walk us through, and if it were brought to you in Congress, would you have signed off to initiate war against Iran?
So I think we need to be careful here. As far as an act of war, what I know Trump to be is Trump is a builder. Mm-hmm. Okay. Stop kicking the can down the road for our children. Mm-hmm. Why have we let Iran bomb us and kill us for 40 years?
And fund the terrorists.
Yeah, right. You know, what, wake up. Mm-hmm. And I think Trump is a builder. He has big plans for the Middle East. He has big plans to try to get Gaza Strip, these terrorist organizations, they need to go. And when you keep kicking the can down the road, it might be my grandson next time or your grandson. And I think that it's time that we put it, erase it, just stop it altogether. I think what they did was an amazing effort. Oh my gosh. Those B-2 bombers are beautiful. And the way that they can just stay in the air for 37 hours and drop those bombs on a dime, and everybody just drops their jaw in awe. What happens after is debate. It's all debate. Steve and I we're not going to agree on 100% of things. You and I aren't going to agree on 100% of things. But you know what? People are talking about it and debating it, and they're actually looking at the law and what's in, the Congress has a side, the Senate has a side. Everybody gets to talk about it. That's all good things. Would I have supported that? Absolutely. I don't want my grandchildren having to fight wars that we should have taken care of, just like President Trump did.
Yeah, that's what I say. Jimmy Carter should have declared war against Iran back in the late 70s when they took over the embassy, because that's an act of war right there.
Absolutely.
And we wouldn't even be in the situation today. We wouldn't be in the situation today if he did his job.
I mean, the way that we appeased them with uranium and money.
And then Barack Obama gave an airplane filled with money.
I'm like,
to do what? To buy terrorists to come and kill us?
I'm like, come on, guys. Like, come on, think about it. This America first, it's the only way. I mean, we should be voting America first. Do we want China with land? No.
No. Especially not near our bases.
What do you think about that Afghanistan withdrawal by Biden?
Could it have went any worse? I mean, that's weakness, just weakness. Peace is through strength. And I mean, you're just scratching your head. And I'm like, I was posting online before he was elected. Where is this guy at? Why isn't he speaking to America? And we find out that with the use of the auto pin, he was president.
It's terrible.
So, Afghanistan was horrible. I mean, what we left there, all the lives that it took to set that base up, and we just flushed it. Just flushed it.
Down the toilet.
Are you kidding me? People lost their lives for that military base, and we gave it away. Not only that, we gave them all the equipment and everything and all of our hard work.
And all the canines.
Everything.
And
then you know what? What's worse?
Us.
What's worse is the people that were from Afghanistan that helped us were left. And that you don't build teams by leaving people behind. You take them all home. If you're going to leave, you take everybody. Those people helped our country. They deserve to be in America.
So, speaking of being in America, how do you feel about the immigration policy that's going on?
ICE, riots.
Well, I'm sanctuary cities are awful. I mean, you like there's laws in this country, but we're going to have a sanctuary city where we don't like those laws, so we're going to do our own thing. They need to. I'm okay with Trump pulling all their funding. Like, this is a country. We work from the top down. You get funding. We got to have an immigration policy. How do you expect those ICE agents to do their job under perfect situation? And then you add the difficulty of the wrong information in these sanctuary cities. Where can they go here? Can they do this? Can they arrest this person? Can this person be deported? It's time to have an immigration policy that works. Okay, I'm in agriculture. I know a whole lot about the H-2A visas. Do we extend them? Is there a requirement as far as if you work for 5 years, can you have, we need to have a policy that makes sense for this country, because just letting people stream through the border, I think that was clearly political by the Democratic Party, just trying to put people around the country and grow that popular vote to where it looks like they actually have a majority, which we found they did not in 24. I think 2026 is going to be the nail in the coffin for making great again, making America great again. It is. We're going to show up. We're going to have good conservative candidates, and we're going to win this election. And we're going to continue to have good policy with President Trump as our leader. Love him or hate him, he's such an amazing man that loves this country He wants to see this country do well.
Mhm.
I understand the tariffs. People are upset about tariffs, but you don't show up to a knife fight with not a, if you're going to go to a gunfight, you take a gun. You got to have the same equal balance, right? To be able to deal with people that have been charging us excessive fees forever.
Than what they have.
Well, at least have something that matches, right? And we've been giving all of this to these other countries for so long. I mean, it's okay. It's okay to have a system of safety, right? Like I'm all about like Social Security. I can take it back to my mother, right? My brothers and I and my sisters. My father passed away when I was 3. Social Security stepped in, and my mother, who's a school teacher, my grandmother's a school teacher, we became ranchers and school teachers, was able to finish raising myself and my brothers and my sisters. We all got college degrees. That's where you want to see a program like Social Security really step up and elevate a family that needed it. So do we need to be providing welfare to other countries? I don't think so. I think we have homeless vets that are sleeping on the streets. They need a place to sleep. They need some help, right? Let's start with that instead of sending all this money out of the country.
Do you believe in a universal CCW?
Well, I believe in the Second Amendment, and I don't like people giving me permission to use the Second Amendment. So I have a CCW, and it would be nice to make it universal so that I don't have to worry about where I'm traveling to. I think it was last Sunday after the event in Iran that somebody ran into a church, and he got out with got out with a rifle, and the security guard shot him dead. We need more of that. Okay, immediate justice. We don't want that person going to court. We want him dead so that everybody sees that if you're going to act in a certain way and you're going to cause good people, harm to their lives, this is what's coming. And so I believe that we all should be carrying, we should all be gun owners. Do we carry? That's a personal preference. Do I believe in CCW? I mean, I know what people do in California to get it. It takes literally an act of God to get a CCW.
It's terrible.
I don't travel without being, I just don't. What they teach you in a CCW class is all the head gun is going to do is get you to a bigger gun faster, because you're never going to be in a gunfight with a handgun. You don't want to be in a gunfight with a handgun. So, the classes are good. I like the CCW setup because you're learning. Anytime you learn, I'm a big proponent of education. So I like the idea of learning about how to carry. Do I think you need a CCW to carry? I would love everybody to think that everybody's carrying. That way it's a safe society. And if you act out, you pull that gun out, there's probably going to be 3 guns pointed right back at you. That's safe. That's what I would like to see.
Do you think marijuana should be legalized in the federal government? That way more veterans could have an opportunity to use it?
So that is a great question. I'm still in the process of, when I was an athlete at Virginia Tech, they actually believed, the doctors there, because when you're a quarterback, you literally are icing your shoulder every practice, right? This pec, I look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. This one, I look like, just this pec was like, and so I'm ice here, I'm ice here, I'm ice here all the time. So I spent a lot of time with the doctors, and they were like, marijuana should be legal. It's actually got a lot of health benefits. And they said alcohol should be illegal. All the fights.
That's what I say.
All of the sexual assaults, all of the bad stuff comes from alcohol, and it's legal. And so that is a debate that I would love to take up in Congress. I'm definitely pro medical marijuana. As far as medicinal, just every day, I don't like to see it on the street. I don't like the smell. But as far as medical, absolutely. It's the safest medicine you can give to people that are in pain. It's not going to harm them. If they can rest, relax, a lot of times That's what THC will provide, and I think it's a great tool in doing just that.
Do you think Congress and Senate should have a term limits?
So, boy, that's tough.
How's that tough?
Tough.
President has term limits.
President has term limits. I don't like
if Congress and the Senate had term limits, we wouldn't have a Joe Biden. Think about that.
Yeah. We wouldn't have half the problems that we have.
We wouldn't have a
These
Nancy
people
Pelosi.
get in there, they're so corrupt.
On the surface, I believe term limits are a great idea. I don't, how can you get any work done? So Congress, what would you do for Congress? 3 terms? 4 terms? What would it be?
Well, I would change it to 4 years instead of 2.
4 years instead of term. That would be great.
And
So
make
you're
it
not
3
constantly
terms.
running all the time.
Because they should concentrate on what the people need.
How,
You got 12 years, 2 terms
How
in
about-
Senate.
how about an age limit? I hate to see these McConnells and the Pelosi's.
No, just term limits.
I-
But see, term limits would get them out. They wouldn't be
age it.
They wouldn't be ancient in there because they'd be gone.
For a guy that doesn't like rules,
I don't like rules either.
so I got to be careful. I got to be careful with that. But I think on the surface, it's actually a very good plan. I know that there's a lot of discussion there. Where I would come down on that, I think it's still developing, right? I think I like the idea of 4-year terms. That's probably great,
What about federal judges in the U.S. Supreme Court? You think there should be some term limits there? You think the U.S. Supreme Court should be a lifetime position?
I think in every job you need to be evaluated.
Let me just add on to that because we're changing. We're changing as a country. We're changing as a community, and we're all changing. The mindset's changing. The equipment is changing. So if you got somebody in there from 1960, he's not changing.
Yeah, I love the fact that you guys are so active in the community
Thank you.
for justice.
Thank you.
Okay, if it wasn't you, who's doing it? Can you name anybody else that wants to hold people accountable for their job?
They're scared. People are scared.
Okay, so now
to hold
let's take
people
that.
accountable.
So now let's take that to the federal level. Everybody needs to be accountable for the job they're doing.
Absolutely.
Nobody should believe that they're above their job.
Absolutely.
So thank you for doing what you're doing. I know I know people are critical, but you're doing a good job in that you're making people do their job. Okay, and if they're not fit to do their job, they shouldn't be doing it.
No.
We need to move on and find a better person to do that job.
Like
That's-
Debbie Conway.
That's how you win, right?
Don't work in the middle of the night. What about what about Congress buying and selling stock in their family? How about banning that?
Poor Martha Stewart.
I've talked about that
She got beat
a
up
lot.
for what everybody's doing.
That's, to me, it's insider trading. I said that on the campaign trail a lot.
You
But
come in there worth the what? 450,000.
My God.
And you leave
Worth
worth
20 million.
So it's all part of the problem. You're expecting these congressmen to run every 2 years, and they have to. I mean, I'm in the middle of it. I'm literally knocking on doors. Can I get your support? Can I get your
And
support?
give me money.
And give me,
Yeah, give me money.
what do you want to tell me? And I need a max donor. I need a max donation. It's the system. The system's broken. You know how expensive it is to be in DC? Why don't we create housing for congressmen there so that they don't feel like they have to go buy a home in Northern Virginia? Let's have some housing there. Pack up a bag, go work, and come home, which Stephen Hordsford hasn't done for 12 years or more. Like, this should be your home. CD4 is my home. Okay, I have a cattle ranch. I have a mother. I did have a little brother that I took care of. So you have a home. Make sure it's your home. But when you go do your job for your country, there should be housing there, and you shouldn't have the pressure to be fundraising all the time and having to buy a home to where your family can come with
You're
you.
not concentrating on the American people if you keep doing that.
You got to go to work.
Yes.
You got to put everything else aside. If you're working for yourself, that's the problem. If you're working for the country, I can get behind that.
So should we ban that?
Because
they know all the inside scoop. I mean, look at Pelosi. Look at all these people.
Look at the drain. The swamp is bigger than we thought. The swamp is huge. Look
Incredibly
at
big.
It.
There's swamp right here.
Listen, I won't go into. I mean, I've been in my own thing. So, look at how judges are elected in Las Vegas.
But
Law firms elect judges
You're not
in Las
answering
Vegas.
my question.
So go ahead, ask it again.
ban Congress members and their families from buying and selling stocks because they know what's going to happen. They have made money hand over fist, a lot of them. And to me, it's insider trading. They should not be allowed to do it. I believe it should be banned.
This one's easy for me because I spend all my money on my cattle ranch. Yes, ban all trading.
Thank you.
And pardon Martha Stewart.
And pardon Martha Stewart.
Poor Martha.
Poor Martha. I mean, they went after her, and I know she did she was in a minimum security prison, but still,
Yeah.
they're doing this insider trading, and they went after her. I like justice to be equal.
Across the board, we don't want unequal justice. It's got to be applied the same to everybody.
Right.
And that's really what we're shooting for, right? That's where we want to go. We want to make sure, and that's what you guys are doing. We want to make sure it's being applied to everybody the same.
So, and how can we get rid of bad judges? You being a congressman, what legislation could you adopt to get rid of bad judges?
So I don't know if that would fall to a congressman, but I would. I mean, this is me strictly guessing here. So are you talking family court, business court?
You went right to family, didn't you?
All right, well,
That's a state issue.
So, you got to be careful there. I would like to see, every governor that's elected, and I'm praying that our governor does well this year because he's a fantastic governor. I know he's working hard. And I would like to see, Department of Insurance, right? There's always something there to watch what's happening, right? If it's this association, contractors board manages contractors. Maybe we should have a judges board that they manage themselves. They know the good ones. If there's a bad one, maybe they say, you know what? Your time has come to an end. Seek employment elsewhere. And judges telling bad judges that would be probably the best scenario.
Well, we have the Discipline Commission, and they seem to protect their own and not really hold anyone accountable. But
I think
so. The state bar.
Yeah, state bar too.
Yeah.
Let's talk about money and funding and spending and all this. What did you think about all the money that they sent to Ukraine?
Ukraine, in the beginning, I was very, I was kind of looking at our independence, how we found our independence in this country. We fought for it. And, I think France jumped in and helped us, right? We didn't do it alone. Obviously they hated the English. So we're not big, even though I love the Russian people, the Russian government's very demanding and wants certain things done their way, and they're willing to kill people to do it. So, here's the thing. I don't like all the money being spent, but we told them we were going to be there to help. And again, in Afghanistan, I don't want to leave before the job is completed. I want to make sure that if they're fighting for their independence, that we're there to support them. And I know it's a big expense, but nothing worth fighting for in life is free. And we've got to make sure that we don't leave our partners around the world by themselves.
Is that our war to fight?
Probably not, but we stepped in to support them. I don't think we leave them at this point, just like leaving Afghanistan. Watching what we did in Afghanistan, I'm mortified. I would hate to see another incident like that in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. I think Trump's doing a great job in trying to negotiate peace. I think he's got the power to do it. And, so I hate to see the waste. Like I said, I'd love to see that money stay local and deal with America First issues. But right now, we've got to finish what was started there. And I'm not a fan of Zelensky, but I am a fan of some of the other leaders that I've watched from afar. Now, that's the other thing is, Stephanie, what information is the right information? Mm-hmm. I have a hard time. I love Fox News. I love me some Greg Gutfeld and Kat Timpf. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's very good entertainment. Is it news? I don't think so. It's entertainment. All this media has become entertainment. They're selling to their base. Where do you get the right information these days?
I'll tell you.
Tell me.
No, I'll tell you the news when I get the news.
Okay.
Multiple sources. So, as far as spending, Trump has floated this idea to take away all federal income tax and do a national sales tax.
Yeah.
And that will give people the ability they can spend if they want. And if not, then they keep their money. What do you think of that idea?
Well, I would have to get a plan in front of me to review it. And as a businessman, I think lower taxes allows us to hire more employees. It makes it easier. I think the problem that the government creates right now, especially in Clark County, is too much restrictions and red tape. We can do more if we kind of have the ropes cut away. And if we go to a simpler tax plan, the problem is the tax code, as it is, like as a small businessman, I just go to the end of the year and I start looking to buy equipment and the things that I need to use for the previous year. And because I'm a small businessman, I'm being a good businessman. And so, I think we go back to how do we apply it equally to all? Mm-hmm. Is somebody raising it has $1 billion of income versus $50,000 of income? Should it be the same or should it be different? I know there's a lot of people on the left that thinks that needs to be really high. Mm-hmm. So I would have to really review something like that before, but a flat tax, it's actually pretty interesting. Having a flat tax would be something to look at. But, for me, as a businessman, I like, if we can lessen the restrictions on businesses so that we can hire more employees and get more work done, that's, as a businessman, that makes me happy. Does it apply to a flat tax? Yes, because I buy a lot of goods and services, but since I'm a reseller, I pass all those taxes on to my customers, and I work with a lot of government entities. So, the government has to have something to run from. I know Trump wants fuel, gas and fuel and mining and a lot of these other things to make a lot of that tariffs to do that as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, hey, I'm running to help President Trump mm-hmm. in his last 2 years continue this momentum that this country needs. I'm the candidate to do it. Go to Cody K. Whipple or CodyKforCongress.com if you want to see our plan and our information. So, I think it's all about keeping that house so that we can continue with Trump's momentum, because if we lose that momentum and we go to 2 years of impeaching and we go to that old method of lawfare, and oh my gosh, the last 4 years have been so awful. Mm-hmm. I would not want to see that. And to be honest with you, Nevada, we're on the edge. We are on the edge. We got to be very careful that we don't teeter over and become the next, Detroit or whatever. Because if we stop building, if we stop growing, I think there's a lot of issues that are going to, the lack of water, the lack of space, we got to work through all those issues right now and keep this momentum out here.
Do you have anything else, Mr. Whipple? Okay. Well, Mr. Whipple, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you, Steve.
Mark is going to zoom in on you, and you could say whatever you want. Vote for Cody Whipple.
Yeah.
You won't get a nipple. Trying to rhyme it.
Well, I've been told I need whip it on everything. I need whip it, right? I'm like, Devo's cool, but it's not that cool when I was
in school.
Whip it. I was in '80s. I was in school in the '80s. So,
and make sure you give your point of contact.
Okay, Cody Whipple, running for Congressional District 4. I really want your support. I have a great desire to serve this beautiful state that I've called home for 51 years. My website is Cody K. for Congress. That's the number 4. My phone number, email address is all on that website. Please sign up, enter your email address. You can follow us. We put out weekly press releases, and I want you on Team Cody. With you, we can win this seat, and we can bring some conservative values back to the state of Nevada. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Steve. And I had a great time tonight. Hopefully, I didn't talk too much.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Whipple. Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Folks, that's Cody Whipple, candidate for Nevada's fourth congressional district. And I just wanted to say this before we sign off. The rural areas need help. We need to widen those roads. It has to widen those roads. We need street lights on those roads. We need cell towers on those roads. We need emergency phone service on those roads. And we need more clinics, especially for our veterans. There's not enough going on from here to Carson City. If we want to make our state great, we have to work together, and we have to make it safe for folks to get from the south to the north and vice versa. So we need to work on the rurals, and none of these congressional candidates or Congress people I've seen worked on the rural areas. We need somebody to work on those rural areas. This is Steve Sanson, Stephanie Phillips with Veterans in Politics. Until next week.